Today, I want to welcome Dr. Richard Kaye. He is best known for working with entrepreneurs to help them accelerate the growth of their businesses. These days, he does that by ensuring they get profitable, powerful publicity. For nearly 24 years, he's assisted people to improve their bottom line from early stage to well into revenue. He's worked with them all. He's a frequent guest on podcasts and webinars and has been featured on radio and television programs, including KGTV in San Diego and KTLA in Los Angeles. Richard was featured in Forbes magazine and was there as it was a PBS special about him and the work he was doing. He is the creator of the renowned Secrets of Empowering Negotiation program. Richard has presented workshops, programs, and seminars in Australia, France, Japan, and Russia, of course, as well as the United States. He has shared stages with Lisa Nichols, Mark Victor Hansen, Michael Beckwith, Sharon Lecter, Forbes Riley, and myriad others. Richard was awarded Lifetime Achievement Award by the Top Talent Agency. Richard recently interviewed Dr. John DeMartini. I think I got that right.
You got it right, yeah. For
the Neuroscience Summit produced by the Los Angeles Tribune. He has served on a non-governmental organization, member of the United Nations, as well as board of directors for nonprofit companies. Richard was a founding member of the Taos in New Mexico Entrepreneurial Network and a former vice president of CEO's Space. Richard is the author of the highly acclaimed book, The Secrets of Creating Customers for Life. He lives with his wife, Angel, in Taos, New Mexico. Richard, welcome.
Hey, fun to be here, Craig.
So that's quite the resume that you have there. Very simply, what do you do for people, and how do you do it?
Everybody needs publicity. Doesn't make a difference if they're practicing chiropractic, which is what I used to do, or they have a book. If they're selling HVAC, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, they need publicity. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to stand out from the crowd instead of being just another one of those, whatever it is. Whether you're starting a business or growing it, you need to get the word out. That's what publicity does. That's what we do.
All right. So let me ask about that. Because there's some people that are listening. They're like, well, publicity, that's for these other people. That's not for me. Is that right? Are there some people that just should not have publicity? That's
an interesting question. I have yet to meet someone who didn't want to grow their business. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're seeking to grow your business, how the heck are people going to find out about you? You can't hide in the basement, except during a tornado, perhaps. You've got to get the word out. Craig, I'm going to tell you a real short story here. When I graduated chiropractic college and drove from New York to San Diego, I was one of 300 chiropractors. I don't even know how many was starting, but I was a new kid in town. How the heck do you grow or start any business? Well, I figured out publicity. I got myself on a morning television talk show, did that for about a year. Got an article in the Los Angeles Tribune. Got an article in the San Diego Tribune, then an article in the Los Angeles Times. Then I got a phone call. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when your name is in the community. A producer for the 630 News, an ABC network in San Diego. The conversation was something such as, who are you? We're seeing your name in print. We're hearing about you. Well, now I got a 630 News special on me. Shortly after that, I got a very similar call from a producer at PBS. Again, similar language. We're seeing you. We're hearing you. Well, now I got a PBS special about me. You're no longer just another one in the crowd. Now, I know it sounds like a story about me. It's not. It's a metaphor for what happens when people hear and see your name. That's what publicity does for you.
Interesting. Now, there are some people that I can tell you that if you offered them the opportunity to go on TV, they're going to run the opposite direction.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things we do, Craig, is we work with people, not only how to get on radio and television, but how to speak coherently and how to speak in sound bites. Too many people go out and it's me, 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 me. No one wants that. So when we work with clients, Craig, they learn how to be a superstar on radio and television and podcasts and webinars and stages, physical stages.
Well, what would you say to the person who's like, I don't want to be on TV. I just don't want to. You can do whatever. I want to be known. I want to be out in the public. Please do not put me on TV.
Don't go on TV. If you're going to wet your pants, it's not a good sign. And yeah, there are some people who are just, whether we call them introverted. Here's my experience. When someone says that, the fear, I did a webinar, an interview a little while ago, and people say, my goal is to get, well, people say that the speaking is the number one fear followed by death. He says, my goal is to get death to be number one, meaning that they're okay with speaking.
Yeah.
It's people don't know how to speak. They're afraid. They're afraid of being embarrassed. Well, when you learn how to have stage presence, we work with people not to sell, by the way, but to attract and enroll. So they become a magnetic personality and people say, I choose you. And if someone is dead set against being on, we don't do it. It's okay. It's fine. There's other ways.
Do you know who Chris Voss is?
Oh, yes, yes. Great author. Great book.
One of the things that I love that he does in some of his stage performances, he shows a clip from a interview, one of his first TV interviews with Anderson Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes step by step how he just screwed up that interview.
Yeah.
But he's obviously been very successful. What lessons should folks take from Chris Voss? Somebody who obviously, he was sitting there trying to pat down his hair in the middle of the interview. He was looking at the camera, had the mirrored image. It was just a disaster.
Yeah.
So what lessons should people take from somebody like Chris Voss on that?
Learn from mistakes. I'm a huge fan of learning from mistakes. I'd rather learn from somebody else's mistakes than my own. But be an observer of life. Watch what doesn't work and then say, oh, this is better. I can do it. It's good, better, or best. So when you make this selection, figure out who your mentors are. I was blessed. Les Brown was a mentor of mine. I haven't spoken with him in a couple of years. Watching that man on stage, it's like, oh my God, can any of us be like that? Yeah, he's just brilliant. Watch that kind of mistake. And someone like Chris, who was patently, now successful, and says, hey, here's how I screwed up. The only way you learn is from mistakes. Again, from yours or somebody else's. It's okay to screw up.
And for my business, we're in the persuasion business. Yeah. We actually engineer flaws into copy, into different things, because it humanizes a person.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We look for those things, and I think that's, and you're the expert to speak to this, but if you go on camera and you're perfect, you're Barbie, to put it in the current context, is that better?
People dismiss you. When you're too perfect, people don't see the person. One of the things, and I'll tell you a sidebar story here, is, ladies and gentlemen, forget the script. Most people don't hear the words. They see your soul. That you want to see someone's soul. My wife and I met, we were on a networking event, and I was facilitating breakout rooms. It's a lot of what I do. She's from San Francisco, was living in the UK at the time. As she relates the story, I heard this guy talking about having a soul-to-soul conversation with his son. She says, I got to meet this guy. 2 months later, she moved here and moved in. I live in Taos, New Mexico. And forget about perfection. Perfection sucks. Be real. Be authentic. Be authentic, and people will connect with you.
I think that's so powerful. And I hope people listening take that away, because It's not about perfection. It's about authentic. And I can say from my world, that's where the persuasion really starts pivoting.
Right. And you do marketing, so you understand that. The people, I was at a speaker training one time, and a fellow named Joel Bauer was trained everybody, Tony Robbins, Mark Hansen, he's trained everybody. There's a guy speaking and he says, "You're too perfect, mess it up. Be real, connect with people, whether you're in front of an audience or, in a private conversation, be authentic." It's so powerful.
So that's really good. And I think that's very helpful. Hopefully that relieves some tension. So for somebody that's still a little bit apprehensive, if you were to tell people to do 3 things, just take 3 steps forward from where they are to getting a bigger public personality, what would those 3 things be?
Start small. Again, you don't want to walk into an ABC or NBC studio and say, "I'm here." First of all, they'll laugh at you, but that's not the point. Start at Rotary, go to Kiwanis, or Lions Club, all these local meetings. They're people, ladies and gentlemen, just like you. Oh, you may meet an occasional polished speaker there. Go in and get your kids, your parents, your aunt, your uncle, or go to university and have someone film you. They'll always let you do that. Go home and in the quiet of your closet, you want to do it by yourself, review it. Watch, you talked about Chris, you don't want to, smooth your hair when you're talking to an audience. Watch it and third person it, meaning look as if it's someone else delivering that talk. What could be better? As a colleague of mine, nobody likes criticism. I used to be principal in an organization named CEO Space. We use an expression called plussing. It's an expression developed by Walt Disney. No one wants to be corrected. So we would plus something. So plus your own talk. And language here becomes really important. What worked for me, not what worked. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is in anything you do when you're in conversation. What worked for me is different than what worked because it's a personal thing. What worked for you may not work for somebody else. What worked for me, we start with what didn't work for me. I mean, you're smoothing your hair in front of the camera. That didn't work for me. I don't have that challenge anymore. Yeah. What didn't work for me, what worked for me, and what could be done better. So look at that film of you, again, even if it's just on your cell phone, and be your harshest critic and learn from it. And then ask someone close to you, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Someone who loves you is going to be able to support you in moving forward. No embarrassment.
Yeah, that's good advice. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. And first off, what's leadership mean to you?
Mm-hmm. Being a servant leader, I'll take it to another level. Too many people perceive leadership as I'm the boss, whether it's, military and you're just going to follow my directions because I got more stripes or, silver and gold on my shoulder than you do. Most of us aren't in that place, or at least we're not anymore. We're in business. Leadership doesn't mean command. It means I take on the responsibility. And that's the biggest part in my realm, Craig, is take on responsibility. If you screw up, own it. When I was an electronics engineer, in the early days, some of us in the lab would come up with, we thought, brilliant ideas. We'd give it to the chief engineer. If I remember, his name was Werner. He would take it back to the president, and a couple of days later, lousy idea. A year later, it would come down from the president's office as the chief engineer's idea.
Wow.
Exactly. That's not leadership. That company ultimately went out of business. Can't imagine why. That's not leadership. Always bring someone in a lesser position who's more brilliant than you. You must have people who can outshine you. Honor and acknowledge people. You, me, most of us just want to be acknowledged. Thank you. You did a great job. Honor people instead of, that sucks. Well, how do you feel? How do you feel, Craig? If at the end of this interview, you say, "So how was the interview?" I said, "Craig, you sucked." It's like, whoa, well, first of all, the segment will never air, right?
Yeah.
You want to acknowledge people, not from a place of authoritarianism, but from a place of strength, and always take in someone else's feedback, plussing, whatever you want to call it. We can only do so much. Leadership means being present, being in a soulful position, and honoring those with whom you work.
You know, it's funny, your story about the chief engineer. So I still am, but used to practice electrical engineering. I designed cell phones.
Where'd you go to school?
North Carolina State University.
Oh, so I went to Northeastern for double E. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. But the in the late 90s, I filled out a patent application for putting 2 microphones in a cell phone to create a noise canceling system so you could hear the speaker more clearly.
Yeah.
And the chief engineer looked at that and he immediately dismissed it, said, "Oh, that will never work. That's crazy." I can tell you today, your cell phone has 2 microphones in it. Every cell phone on the market has 2 microphones doing exactly what that patent applied for. But back to your issue about leadership, is I'm sure he felt better that day, but he hurt the company.
The whole company, right?
Because they could have been, collecting royalties on that. The patent would have expired by now, but they could have collected royalties on that for some time.
Yes. And you speak to something in there also. That's ego. I know better than you.
Yeah.
We may know better than some people, but there's a lot of people out there who know better than we.
So true. And I liked your comment about look for people that are smarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so tell me about a time where you felt like your leadership was put to the test, sort of like one of these white knuckled moments that you're faced with a decision, you're not sure what to do, it's scary. What was it and how did it play out?
Well, where do we begin? There's so many times. One of the biggest ones was when I was practicing chiropractic. Excuse me. I had just had the PBS special about me. I was highly visible, probably the most noticeable chiropractor in San Diego, and young enough that I had an ego to go around it, but that's another whole story. I was chairman of the world's largest chiropractic teaching organization. I was meditating and I had a download, and I was told to shut my practice and work with entrepreneurs. It's like my whole leadership role in a space where I was highly visible. Chiropractors all through the country may not have known me, but they know my name. I mentioned that I live in Taos. I already owned 80 acres out here. 3 weeks after I got that download, I shut my practice, drove out here, and I started in Sandbox One. I didn't know anything. I was just serving entrepreneurs. And it was the place of, being not terrified, but pretty scared. What am I stepping into? The unknown. I stepped into total uncertainty. And that's when you, ladies and gentlemen, have to embrace your decisions. The buddy of mine, Tony Robbins, says the quality of your life is dependent upon the level of uncertainty you can handle. If you live in certainty, get up same time, have same breakfast, travel the same way, same, there's no growth. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So embrace the leadership of yourself, and others can follow you. That's that place of leadership again. So there you go.
Well, good. So how do so obviously you help people raise their public image. How do people reach you?
The easiest way is talkaboutpublicity.com. All one word, no periods, TALKABOUT, publicity.com. It'll take you right to my calendar. You can set up a link and set aside a 30-minute time to talk. And if you want to know, the website is, the company is Top Talent Agency. The website is toptagency.com. And no punctuation or one word, toptagency.com. agency.com, and you'll see what happens to people just like you, just people who want to have an impact in the world. And by the way, Craig, people ask me, who are your clients? People who have a gift to share and they want to serve humanity at a higher level. They want to share their gifts. Those are our ideal clients.
Well, and I think those are the people that are just absolutely fueled with passion to see it through. And those are the ones that do change the world.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, you said you also have 1,000 proven email subject lines, and they go to, is it richardkaye.com/1000?
That's correct. With no comma, 1000, RICHAIDKAYE.com/1000. Why do you want that? First of all, it's free. 15 billion emails never see the light of day. Greg, how many emails do you get that's gone? You never open them. It's the subject line that gets your attention, even if it's from an unknown sender. If it's from someone you know, you're more inclined. If it's an unknown sender, it's a subject line. So these are proven email. Will all of them work for you? No, vast majority of them will. Get your emails opened at least. And then you got to learn how to write a good message.
And just for clarification, the 1000 is the number 1000. Don't write out 1000.
1000. Thank you. Nice distinction.
Yeah. Well, Richard, it's been a delight having you on Leaders and Legacies today. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for the opportunity to play in your sandbox, Greg.